So this last video will give you a chance to practice ornamentation and to compare it to ornamentation that some of my students and I have done in the past. Well, what I suggest you do is start the tape. When I tell you to stop the tape and look at some of the examples there, you should stop it and then do some work and then return to the tape after you've done the work. You're going to learn the most by practicing this yourself. You can find all of these examples on 2read.net, and I'm showing you the link in this video later. Hope you enjoy it. Bye. Well, it's now time to test your knowledge to see if what you've learned in the prior 4 videos on ornamentation will put you in good stead for this example. I've got a few suggestions here for you, so let's begin. Be sure that you consider the harmony. In the example I give here, the practice example, you'll have harmony that I'm giving to you so you'll understand that. But in the future, when you ornament Baroque music, you will need to look at the figured bass, or if you have a realization, look at what the editor has provided for you as the other notes. Now be sure you think as a composer. Make the ornamentation interesting. It should be a beautiful melody. Create a melody that logically leads from the beginning to the end of the segment. Make sure it's interesting above all and captivates your listener. Try out your melody by playing it. It should fit well on your instrument. You should be comfortable with it. After all, it is your melody. Test it out with a keyboard instrument, also to make sure that the harmonies work. Now, here's the practice example I've made available for you. You can get that practice example by going to www.2read.net/BDP. That's BDP for Bassoon Digital Professor. And you can see here that we've got the # ornamentation. So it will be on that page. There will be videos there, but there'll be materials that you can download that accompany these videos. And what you find here in the picture below is your assignment. Notice the rectangle with the red border around it. That's your assignment. If you look at the notes here, it really isn't very interesting. In fact, this is sort of the skeleton of a melody, the bones, if you will, and now you need to add flesh and sinew to this, making it a beautiful, beautiful lyrical line. So you'll be working on this assignment. You'll start here at the beginning, go to the end, and we'll just even finish on that note there. Okay, let's look at the harmony. Now, if you're not familiar with figured bass, you wouldn't be able to read this assignment here very well, but we have a G in the bass. There is no number given with it, no figures. That means it's in root position. So a chord in root position built on that G is a G major triad. You have a G, B, and D as part of that triad. The next chord we find, this is in measure 14, is a D in the bass, and that chord also is without a figure, therefore it's in root position, a D major chord. All right, now it's your time to get to work. Be sure you play your example before you start this video again. Well, how did you do? I hope that was interesting for you and you had very many creative ideas in working through this problem here, this little melody. Now what I want you to do is download the responses from 2read.net and take a look at those on your instrument or piano. Compare them to what you wrote. What is it you like about what you wrote? What is you like about the responses? What problems do you see in what you wrote and in the responses? In a moment, I'll be commenting on each response, giving you the ideas that I have found, but I want you now to study them before you hear my responses so that you're learning from these. Well, this is the first response, and frankly, it's the most disappointing of the bunch. It's boring. There wasn't a lot of originality that went into it. In this case, we've just added a quarter note in each measure to really the notes that were given. Very dull. It's not very inspiring, and as such, I think it should be rejected and something better should be done. Now, let's move on to the next response. Well, response number 2 is a significant improvement over response number 1. The author of this one has left the first measure pretty much alone, not a bad idea, and then created some ornamentation here that really flows nicely as a line, with one problem, however. We have a G major harmony in the first measure, and probably that harmony continues to the second measure. If not, then you need to consider a chord that meets the D major harmony in this measure better. The E natural, the leap to the E natural, however, does not sound like it fits with the harmony and really does create a problem in this measure, so that needs to be revised. We move to D major here. This measure works quite nicely, but again we have a harmonic problem in this measure. Going down to the E doesn't seem to match a D major harmony, nor does it quite match a harmony that seems to lead well to the next measure. So that would need to be revised as well. But there's some nice ideas here. The melody flows. There's a mix of steps and skips that look quite appealing. Okay, let's go on now to response number 3.